Well, part two, Darryl P slash artist in recovery. It's still the 6th of June, 2026, 2:43 p.m. We were talking about a young man grieving. Yes, I didn't talk about him in any way, shape, or form in the first video because I wanted to tell you my own personal experiences of dealing with death, dealing with grieving, dealing with everybody else having that kind of an issue that I came across, family members and no family members. I've dealt with people who are crying like crazy but held their emotions in. But afterwards, it became a real mess. Give me a second. I guess Sheila must be obeyed and needs help. Sorry about that. Taking care of a dog is stressful enough as it is. The kid who got the Nebraska contract, being a football, coming all the way from Australia into the States, and his family's halfway across the world, and he celebrates a birthday at home. Yeah, he is going to be emotionally overwhelmed. And the news media is making a big deal about the damn thing. So it's on social media that people are having a conniption fit because this kid is going through something that he's never gone through before. He's dealing with loss of family because if I've heard the story correctly on this one here, he hasn't separated from the family either. Trust me, I can relate with the kid. Not the football, but the separation, I know it too damn well. Even as a kid, when I went out, I had to keep telling myself sometimes, I'm okay. I went on a week trip to the Grand Canyon with some junior high students and some adults as chaperone. 1 week. Took us a couple of days to get over to the canyon. We did some sightseeing in different places and came right back. It took us about 5 or 6 days. And during that time, I had to behave myself and feel totally isolated from Mama and David. If you want to talk about being isolated as an adult, it's not about the death at this point. What is it? I had been in a situation where I was totally out of control. I was about 19, 20, hooked up with a Star Trek groupie. And there was going to be a lot of clubs meeting over at Disneyland. My particular club I got hooked up with, it's going to be 3 people. Their leader, the second in command, and me. There was nothing wrong with that, except there was, she's going to be spilling the dish sometime next few minutes, which I got to clean up. Dry food. Anyway, separated without any familiar faces and being totally alone. It's one thing if I was at a college campus, I could take the bus, probably take it to workplaces, okay, no problem, and get picked up at home, take it home, be comfortable. But being all alone on my own with strangers I didn't know, sometimes I had to get used to being that way. If I was in an unfamiliar environment, yeah, that would scare the hell out of me. Didn't make me cry. I was just trying to find some familiar faces I could hang around with to feel comfortable, to feel the safety net, to feel like I belonged a little bit. Even though I'd had strangers, but somewhat acquainted with them. Kid being interviewed was telling about this traumatic situation that they laughed at him. They couldn't comprehend because they hadn't had the experiences necessary and lacked the empathy. There used to be times when I could deal with myself for a few minutes, but realize I can always get back home where to be family, safety, and security, and that was it. He's in an environment where he has to make friends and develop skills on being safe and feeling secure, but really he isn't, because his family's not there. And then the flip side of it, but they tried to say something about it. Did they ever interview the family on how they felt about it? Because they would put up the brave face, but in person, they would be just as frustrated. When my brother went for the Navy back in the mid '70s, I was a kid going through elementary school. My big brother was going into the Navy. How the hell was I supposed to be able to deal with that one? I was going to be the man of the house. Actually, I was going to be the man of the house. I didn't think about it. I was thinking about my brother gone. Then I had to deal with things at school and walk back home, and I still had Grandma and Aunt May, and sometimes they would have health issues. And Aunt May would be going to the hospital a lot because of her pacemaker. It scared the hell out of me. There was one situation I had to go across the street to a church, across the street from my home, to a community church, and just prayed. Helped. And it was okay for that time. But later on down the road, she wasn't. And I actually saw my brother when he graduated. I was so happy to be with him. I was also surprised when he came back home on a surprise leave. It was him, but it wasn't him. There was a time when some of the things he did in the Navy changed his personality a great deal. He scared the hell out of me. I didn't know who and what he was. He had to talk to his shrink. They told him to lock it down. Compartmentalize it. How come he had to isolate? He couldn't isolate because when he lost Aunt May, it tore him apart. But Grandma, he wasn't going to let Ma deal with her alone, and he was already having issues in the Navy anyway. Brought the issues home with him. Year and a half of, almost a year and a half of missing ships movement, shall we say. He had to go back into the Navy, make up for what he did. Got him out with a bad conduct, but he was still able to deal with things at home. Except he had to use drugs and alcohol to deal with all the shit he had been going through. And me, isolate. Kid. FaceTime. Showing stuff that the scout liked, that the college would use and utilize. Drag him halfway across the world in an alien environment. There was a hell of a lot of fear in his face. There was a hell of a lot of despair. See it in the eyes. See it in the gait. See it in the body. And him crying. Was telling the world he missed his family. He wanted their security. He wanted to be safe, secure, and well, he probably wanted to be home, but he accepted the challenge. He didn't realize what the cost was. The cost was change. A lot of change. A lot of growth. And I don't hold it against the kid for going emotional. There's no shame in what he was feeling, what he was expressing. There's no shame in that. But society and humanity puts the shame on it because because of the different doctrines the older generation grew up with, and that passed it down to the younger generations. Really got them screwed up. We had to lock it down because we had things we had to take care of. This kid grew up in an environment where it was okay. And he was still scared. And he had to show it. He wanted to go back home. He didn't have to say it. I saw it in the language. I know that language. At least been through it myself. So that's my own observations concerning about the kid. Let the others say what they have to say. Let him say. He's probably a coward? No. He's not a coward. But he is scared. And he has to work with it and deal with it. And there'll be some changes. They won't be sure about it. They won't understand it when the family goes to see the kid. He'll be grateful, yes. But I imagine he'll be going through a few things, hopefully, that will show a little bit of growth. That he is capable of it. I hope he is. And I hope the kid will be okay. And that being said,